Hello everyone, welcome back to this course. In the previous lecture, we went through a simple introduction to type ORM, which is an ORM for JavaScript or TypeScript as well. And we used ORM in order to create an abstraction layer over a database layer so that we don't have to write the raw SQL queries always, and we can work with some of the methods that are provided by the ORMs depending upon which tech stack you are currently working. Okay, in the previous lecture, we also did understand theoretically that how one can integrate type ORM in their Express.js or TypeScript-based applications. That was just a theoretical walkthrough. In today's lecture, we are going to be integrating our database with the help of type ORM in the same application that we had built a couple of lectures ago. So we had created this task manager application, which was capable of creating, reading, deleting, updating tasks, etc. And we are going to be adding, a database connection in this application itself. And let's get started with that. So, uh, in order to create or interact with a database, we have seen in the previous lecture that we could create a data source of the database that we want to work with. So in order to create a data source, what I'll do is in this SRC folder itself, in our folder, what I'll do is I will create a new file called data source. Data source.ts, since we are working with TypeScript, so I am going to be naming this file with .ts extension. And what do we write, within this file? Is something that we will borrow from the documentation. The same set of code is something that we have already seen in the previous lecture slides. So if I navigate to my browser, so this is the official type ORM documentation. Well, before even we write down any code in our existing project, we also have to make sure that we install the required dependencies in our project node modules folder. So currently, if we take a look at our package.json file, then we have Express and UUID installed. But since we are going to be working with TypeORM, we need to install that as well. So what will I do is I will head to my terminal, and here I am going to install TypeORM. In addition to type ORM, we will be requiring an additional dependency that is going to be the driver for the database that we wish to integrate. So since we are going to be working with a Postgres database, I will be using the PG driver that is specifically being used for the Postgres database. So along with type ORM, I am also installing this PG driver. So meanwhile, it is getting installed. Let us see the documentation, what all things it says. It says you have to install this, reflect metadata. We shall be skipping that as of now. And if you look at it, types node, this is something that we have already installed while setting up our project for the initial time. So if you look at it, types node is already installed. Right. Now, in the previous lecture, we also discussed that we will have to make certain additions in a tsconfig.json file when we will start integrating a database in our application. And these two are the additional configuration that we need to add in a tsconfig.json file so that when we start working with TypeORM, the TypeScript does not throw us, unwanted errors. But before that, let me look if installation is completed. Yes, the installation is indeed completed. And if I come back here to my package.json, then you could see PG and TypeORM with their respective versions have been installed in my current working directory or in my current project. So now what will I do is I will borrow this code and I will directly add it to my tsconfig.json file. So far we had only this much of configuration. And what will I do is I will add this also here. Now, the reason for adding this is something that we will get to know when we will actually start creating some tables or type ORM entities. But for now, please understand that this is important for type ORM to work in a TypeScript-based project. If we are working with the, a JavaScript-based project, then these two configurations are not needed at all. So simple reason being that we will not have a tsconfig.json file at all in a JavaScript-based project. All right. Now, once we have added that, we already have a project ready with us. And this is going to be the data source that we will have to configure for our application. So what will I do is I will copy this configuration as it is or this code, and the new file that I have created, that is data source.ts, I will add it. Now, definitely, it is saying that data source is currently not defined here. So what will I do is I will import this data source. Where will I import it from? I will import it from the type ORM. Okay. So you see, as soon as I start typing something, I am going to, get the suggestions from the IntelliSense of the code editor. And as soon as I hit tab or enter, I will get auto completions. So this, you could see data source is being imported from type ORM. And this entities is also giving us an error because currently we don't know what post and category are. Now these are going to be the actual entities or the tables that our application will be interacting with. But currently we don't have any such thing. So I am going to make this entities array look empty. Now, if you look at all the options that are available in the configuration of this data source, then you would find them very familiar. Whenever you wish to integrate any application with a database, then these are some standard or basic options or configurations that you must provide. So one is type. Type means that which type of database you wish type ORM to be connected to. And it is Postgres in our case. Then you have to provide the endpoint of the database. Currently, since we are going to be using for demonstration purposes, so I am going to be using my local Postgres. So that's why I will leave the host to be localhost only. The default port that is used by Postgres database is 5432. Now, username is something that I will change here, and I would go with the uh, you know uh, the, the default username that Postgres database comes with, which is going to be Postgres itself. And password is something that we will need to provide. So in our case, my password is going to be abhi@123. Well, of course, this password could be anything else in your case. And there is going to be some database that we will try to connect to. And let's say we are going to be connecting to a database called Task Manager. Since this application itself is a task manager, I wish to connect to a database named Task Manager. And synchronize is mentioned as to be true here. So that means uh, whenever you will start this application, all the tables will be created in case they don't exist in the database. But make sure that you use this option very wisely, especially when your application is already under the production. This should be set to false in most of the production scenarios. But for now, I am leaving it as true here. All right. So these are all the configurations that are needed to be set up when you wish to integrate type ORM in your Express.js based application. Now we have created this data source. What needs to be done with this data source? We somehow need to initiate a connection with the database, right? And where will we do that? We shall do that in our index.ps file. So here you could see at the bottom, our server is going to be initiated with this logic. So the first thing that I would do here is I am going to import the data source that I had created. So it is going to be app data source. All right. And here, just at the bottom, I am going to be making use of this app data source object, and I am going to call the initialize method. Now, this initialize method is going to initiate the connection to the database for which the configuration was provided in the data source. And since this is going to be an asynchronous operation, so I would say then so that I should get to know what happens when this connection is successful and what happens if there was some problem in initiating this connection. Okay. In case there is some problem in initiating this connection, all I would do is I would print an error message saying error in DB connection, and whatever that error is, I am going to be printing it as it is. Okay. But in case our connection is successful, then what I'm going to do is I am going to firstly print a message called DB connection successful, and right after that I am going to begin the server instantiation. That means I am waiting for the DB connection to be successful in this specific case, and once that connection is successful, I am going to be starting my server as well. All right. So firstly, the DB connection should happen, and after that, our server will start listening at a given port number, which is going to be okay 8080. that we have defined above. Maybe what we could do is we could also bring this port number at the bottom, right here. All right. So this is all done. But wait, before we actually run this application, we need to make sure that this database is actually created in the local Postgres that we are trying to connect to. Now, in order to connect to my local Postgres connection, I am going to be using this table plus. This is the database UI that you could also install. Uh, what I'm going to do is I am going to simply connect to any sample database that I have, and I will head to the queries section here, and I am going to create a new database. And the database name is going to be Task Manager, which we want to connect to, for the specific application that we have created. So if I click on run, then you would see that it has created a database. And if I close this connection and will simply replace this sample DB with task manager here and click on test, it says connection is okay. That means this database now exists in my local Postgres. And if I connect to it, then going by the item section here, this is going to list all the tables, all the entities that exist in this particular database. And currently, there are no tables that exist because we have created this database just now and we have not added any tables so far. So this confirms that a database with name Task Manager is now connected. Now, what we need to do is we need to start this application and see if we are able to get a database connection done or not, or if we are getting any error, then we should try to resolve this. So in order to run our application, we will have to run this dev script. So I will head to my terminal and I would say npm run dev. Okay, so all right, you could see that this says DB connection successful. In addition to that, we are also getting these log messages. This is specifically because in the data source option here, we have set the logging equals to true. So what I could do is I could make it false. And once I come back here, then you could see we are only getting this DB connection successful and server is running. That means we were able to integrate a Postgres database. But just to make sure that we are actually connected to a database, maybe we should start, some query, or we should initiate at least a simple SQL query so that we get to know that we are able to fetch something from the database. So maybe what we could do is, I am going to make use of this app data source instance once again, and I am going to call the query method. And in this query method, maybe all I would do is I would say select now. Okay, so this is just going to give us the current timestamp from the database. And this is going to be an asynchronous method. So I will collect it from okay, I am going to be invoking this with the help of await, but await can only be used inside an async function. So I will make this an async function. And right after that, I am going to print whatever result we get. Okay. Now, if I come back to my terminal, my application would have been automatically restarted. And now if you see, we are getting this array, as the output, and it is going to show us the current timestamp that was returned by the database. Now, this confirms that we have successfully connected to a database. So far, we only created a connection to the database. But in the next lecture, we are going to be seeing that how we can create tables, with the help of TypeORM, and how we will be, performing write and read operations in a database. So in the next lecture, we shall be converting this task manager application, which is currently relying on this in-memory tasks list. We will make this data persistent and we will add a database layer so that whatever tasks that we create actually go into a database. So that whenever we close our application, restart it anytime ever again, we shall have access to all the tasks that were created before us. So that's all for this lecture. Thanks for watching.